Today, I'm going to show you how to choose the best products for your blog. Hey guys, it's Jazz, and on our channel, Blogging Money Life, we teach blogging tips that helped us monetize our blog and move to Costa Rica. Okay y'all, let's talk products. One factor that sets bloggers who make thousands of dollars a month apart from those who don't is products. Plain and simple. Bloggers who own products and sell them on their blogs make more money than bloggers who do not. Having a product on your blog can mean you making money every single month on autopilot. I want to talk about my journey with developing a product for my blog and show you some tips that I learned along the way. But first, I need to set the stage. I have been blogging for a couple of years, and several of my blogging mentors had told me it's time that I start thinking about a product. I was very nervous about the idea of this just because I knew how much work went into creating a product on your blog. I knew that I had to come up with an idea, I had to figure out what format it's going to be in, and then I had to create the dang thing. My worries were, what if I created the right content but put it in the wrong format? What if I developed a product that no one was interested in? Advice that I received on my next steps to creating my product was to ask my audience. I did have an email list of at least 1,000 subscribers, which I think is pretty important if you are thinking about creating a product. Something else that I did was consult different Facebook groups that were related to my niche. I also looked at the most popular articles on my blog. I created a survey and sent it out to my list of email subscribers. I asked questions such as what was their biggest problem that they were facing within my niche. I also asked about how much money they make. I asked if they had kids, what their careers were, and what were their fears and doubts when it came to whatever they were trying to pursue. It's good to ask these type of questions because you want to know exactly who you're targeting for your product, but also it's good to understand what those problems are that they're facing. The thing about consumers are we don't really know what we need. We know what we want, and those are the questions that you want to make sure you ask them. Asking them a question such as what type of product I should create, they're going to draw a blank or give you some regurgitated version of what someone else has. Get to the root of their problems, and that is what you're trying to figure out when you're doing this, asking your audience a bit. The same thing goes for a Facebook group. You want to do a little poll, ask some basic questions, and see what type of results you get back. Remember here that when creating a product, your goal is to solve your audience's biggest problem. But first, you need to figure out what that big problem is. When I did my initial research for my first product, the problems that kept coming up for me were that one, people wasn't making enough money with their blog, despite having put money into their blogs already. And two, they did not have enough time to execute on the things that they know they needed to do for their blog. So money and time were the biggest problems that I knew I needed to solve for my audience. I can say after this first step, I still had no idea what type of product I was going to create. So it's okay if you don't know either. But the whole goal of this first step is just to make sure you understand the problem, not necessarily solve for what product you're going to create. The next step to figuring out your product is deciding what hurdles did you face that you already resolved. Now, this can take a little bit of introspection because we don't typically think about big hurdles that we face. Like we see ourselves before, how difficult things were before we overcame that hurdle, and then we see ourselves after, as far as how things are going now. And it's easy to forget, like there was a little time where something changed and you had to do something probably drastic for that change to happen. Let's say, for example, that you're a finance blogger. What was that big hurdle that you had to overcome to get you to save more money than you were before? If you are a food blogger, what was that hurdle that you overcame to become a better cook? If you are a travel blogger, What hurdle did you have to overcome in order to travel more than you were traveling before? We all have this origin story, and somewhere in there is a problem that you solved and you figured out how to do it. You probably didn't document it, but it was something that made a big difference in the trajectory of where you are now. Start thinking about what those things could be and write them down. And the goal here is to match up whatever those hurdles were that you overcame with the problem that you're trying to solve for your audience. I'll tell you about what this was like for me. I too had the problem of not making enough money with my blog when I first started blogging. I had been blogging for about a year and a half. I hadn't made much more than 60 cents or so in a given month. And I knew I was spending money every single month on my blog hosting, as well as other tools to make blogging easier. Needless to say, if you are in this position, it can be very stressful because you are literally losing money every month and not bringing in anything. This is where I was when I knew I had to make a big change to be able to bring in income or call my blog quits for good. When I finally had an opportunity to make some decent income on my blog through sponsored posts, I took it and I ran with it. I learned about different influencer networks. I signed up for over 100 of them, and I spent several hours a day logging into each channel, reviewing all the sponsored posts that were there and applying to the ones that were best fit for me, and applying to the ones that were the best fit for me. Now, this strategy proved to be very successful. I went from making 60 cents or so a month to making $200 to $500 a month just from doing different sponsored post opportunities every single month. I was applying to a lot of opportunities and getting selected for at least 1 or 2 each month. I felt like I hit the jackpot. And I was making enough money to cover my expenses and be able to bring some money in for myself. This is exactly where I wanted to be. But I ran into another problem. You see, the strategy that I had developed was very time consuming. I was spending about 4 hours a day logging into all these sponsored post networks and then applying to opportunities. And this just wasn't sustainable. For anyone who has a blog, you know that there are so many other things that you need to do, like write content, send out your newsletter, make sure that you're driving traffic to your blog, amongst other things. And if I was spending 4 hours a day applying for sponsored post opportunities, it did not give me a whole lot of wiggle room to do other things on my blog. So while I had solved the money problem, I had a new problem with time. I did not have enough time to do all the things that I wanted to do on my blog. I knew this had to be the next problem that I solved so that I can get back to doing more things with my blog. So what did I do? I hired a virtual assistant. I felt okay with spending some more money to hire someone to help me with this because I was making enough money to pay my expenses and take some back myself. I paid myself a little less so I could pay a virtual assistant to give me back some time. She spent her 4 hours a day scouring through the sponsored post networks, looking for the best opportunities based on the criteria that I provided for her, and only sent me the ones that made the most sense for me to apply for. It was awesome. I got an email from her a few times a week that allowed me to just go ahead and apply to the opportunities that were best. I went from spending 4 hours a day looking and applying for opportunities to spending 30 minutes to maybe an hour a day, just applying to the ones that I know were a better fit for my blog. This made a huge difference. Not only was I bringing in more income, but I was able to take my time back and invest that into different strategies to grow my blog. When I look back at all my other hurdles that I faced on my blog, I realized that this had to be one of the most defining moments of my blogging trajectory. And I realized that what I had solved could make a good product. The problem was I had to figure out how to deliver this to my audience. And that leads me to the third part of developing a product for your blog, and that is deciding on the format. Once I figured out the problem that I wanted to solve for my audience, and I knew this answer to that problem, I needed to figure out the best way to deliver this content to my audience. My first thought was to develop a course, because honestly, that's exactly what everyone does. They create a course, and I figured that's just the way to go. But after more research, I realized that there are quite a few different formats that you can choose for your first product. Here are a few, for example: an online course, an ebook, a video series, a workbook, a paid newsletter, a challenge, a mentorship group, a calculator, an exclusive workshop, a webinar, a Facebook group, a digital retreat, an in-person retreat, a monthly service, and so much more. The reality is there are so many different formats that you can choose from. Just because you see a lot of bloggers who do a specific format doesn't mean that it is the right one for you. When deciding on format, it's good to keep your audience in mind. Go back to that initial survey that you conducted in the beginning and get an idea of what their problems are and what format will best fit to solve it for them. For example, if your audience said that time was something that they did not have a whole lot of, an online course probably isn't the best bet, since it does require a certain amount of time to be able to go through the course and then implement the strategies. However, if you do have time-strapped customers, a service that does certain things for them may be a better format than an online course. Do they know the general steps to solve their problem, but are having a hard time getting started? A worksheet or a workbook may be a better format for that. Back to my story, after a lot of consideration, I decided on a monthly subscription newsletter. I was already getting these opportunities via email from my virtual assistant. I knew that I just had to make a few tweaks to the email and it'll be ready to be sold. After this process, my first product, Blogging Money Update, was born. It's a paid subscription newsletter that is sent 3 days a week with sponsored post opportunities that pay between $65 to over $5,000 for each one. It makes it easy for bloggers so they don't have to log into hundreds of sponsored post networks to find the best opportunities for them. If following this newsletter, you have the ability to follow the exact strategy that I developed to bring in income on a regular basis with my blog. Since creating the Blogging Money Update newsletter, that product has brought me over $15,000. Not too bad. This was my first product that I created, and it is now one of 3 that I currently own. Blogging Money Formula is the name of my second product, which is an online course that teaches bloggers how to bring in income, from getting their blog started and getting the basics together to developing a strategy to have sponsors coming to you so that you bring in income. My third product is called the Sponsored Post Pricing Toolkit, and it is filled with tools for bloggers to determine how much they should charge for different types of partnerships on their blog. This is perfect for those who already have a knack for working with different brands, but are unsure of what is a fair price for them and the brand to be able to pay for it. Between these 3 products, I can say I make more money with products each month than I do with any of the other monetizing strategies that I use. Having products on my blog has made a significant difference for me, and I know it will do the same for you. Just make sure that you're taking that time out to do the proper research to create the product that will solve the biggest problem for your audience. I'll be here and rooting for you along the way. If you want to learn more about different monetization strategies for your blog, check out my video, How to Make Money with Sponsored Posts, in the link below. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos every Wednesday, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time.